Okay, so this is the third video on this winterizing couple of videos that I made. And this is what I have been working toward for a couple of years here. Put a little tarp up. Got one of these extreme, I can't really see. Hold on a second. I got an idea. And here is the extreme heater. The heaters are for, I know it's overkill, but the heaters are for, here we'll do Adam the Woo style here. The heaters are for boats or underneath in your RV if you want to keep your pipes warm. This thing will keep the temperatures between 40 and 55. And they're really quite good heaters. So this is really the culmination of what started probably back at, well, in Adam the Woo version here. But this really is the first year that I've been on two wheels in a long time. I thought it would be a good idea. You know, in 2020, I think I was going out with a girl who wanted to get a motorcycle, and I thought, boy, that would be fun. But for 15 years when I was married, I had agreed to ride on four wheels. And so it just wasn't in my head until we sort of started talking about it. And I thought, boy, it would be really cool to do that. And I just let that marinate for a couple of years, and then started thinking, well, how would this work? Like, what would I have to do? There'd have to be some pieces put in place, you know. So, like, when I needed new glasses, well, I got biker glasses, you know. I got something that you would use when you ride, you know. I just started researching. Just started kind of poking around, on YouTube and talking to people, making some calls to some bike shops, and just trying to, like, what would my strategy be if this really was a thing, if I really were to get a motorcycle? Logistically, what would have to happen? And so I began to answer that question, and of course you have to answer multiple different versions of that question, like what would have to happen with winterizing, which is what, and I happen to know this guy. He had two bikes in his garage all the time and a truck. And one time, about a year and a half ago, in the summer, his garage was open, he was out there, and his name is Stan, and I said, Stan, let me ask you a question. And he says, sure, shoot. And I said, what do you do in the winter to winterize your bikes? I'm just starting to think about, how is this all going to work? How am I going to put this all together? And so I asked him that, and he said, well, my garage is in a hill. I mean, it doesn't get that cool. I just put some seafoam in the tank and run it, and it's fine all winter. Cover it. So he said, it's the bikes. He had a Harley and he had a BMW, both police motorcycles. And he said, the bikes aren't for sale, but I would like to sell one of them. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, you looking for a motorcycle? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm thinking about it. And he said, well, let me know. If you're interested, we can talk about it. So I thought about it overnight, and the next day I left him a note in his mailbox, and I said, I'm interested in your Harley. The problem was, I had tried to get financing and stuff, and financing isn't in the cards for me. yet even. I said, it's going to take me 6 months to save up the amount that he was asking. And he said, that's fine. And I said, well, sometime next spring, I'm going to look you up. And I'll probably be pretty close to what you're asking, so we can go from there. And after that, every once in a while, he would check in on me and see how I was doing. And I'd kind of update him on what was going on. One of my problems was, when I first learned to ride anything like a motorcycle, I bought a Suzuki dirt bike in like 1989. I think I was like 13 or 14. And my neighbor came over and he said, well, here's your shift. This is your rear brake up here. This is your front brake. This is your clutch, That was it. That was my training. And ever after that, I think, when I was in my 20s, we had a house bike. And never really was serious and never had a license for any of the stuff that I was riding. And I would just ride that bike up and down the street, just stand on the seat or like an idiot. And no helmet, I'm lucky I lived. And I had a buddy who was riding home from a party and crashed and died around the time that my wife, in like 05, 06, around that time, I was talking about maybe getting a bike, and then that happened. And that was kind of the end of the conversation. And for good reason. I was scared too, So, but because, I was talking with Stan and sort of getting some ideas, all of a sudden the path just sort of began to appear in front of me. And at some point, I told all this stuff to Stan, I'm sure, and at some point he said, well, what you should really do is spend a weekend, take the MFS course. And I kind of, I just wasn't thinking that I was going to do, I don't know what I thought I was going to do, but I wasn't thinking I was going to do that. And over the weekend, I thought, you know what? That guy's probably right. He probably knows more than I do. And I could probably take this thing and do fine. And each little moment that I had like that sort of pointed me in the right direction. So this was one of my questions about, what do I do with this thing? Well, I'm going to try to keep this at relatively the temperature that this bike is used to. And I know it's overkill, but I am kind of a believer in, if you can keep with something from 07, all the hoses on it, the bushings, and anything that's going to break down, the colder or the more extreme temperatures they go through, the shorter the lifespan. And I've had, bikes that have sat all winter, and we'd had to, get the dried up varnish out of the tank and all that kind of stuff. So this time around, I feel, I thought, well, I really want to try to do this well. And so anyway, it's a long story, but I guess my point probably is that sometimes if you sort of allow yourself to just kind of look around and recognize that there might be a path in front of you, you can allow yourself to just start walking down it and see what happens. Sometimes if you just let the path show itself, you just kind of have to start walking and things will work out. And that's something I wouldn't have said when I started thinking about doing this, particularly not after my divorce and stuff, I was pretty let down. But there's always something else coming on the horizon, you know. It may not be here today, but if you hang around and allow people to be kind to you, good things can happen. So anyway, this is the culmination. This is all the research that I've done, including getting a garage. That was one thing that I really needed to do, and I wanted to keep this in here because otherwise I have to move it whenever it snows and they need the plow in the parking lot out here. So it's been about 6 years, you know, just kind of going, well, I guess this could work, and I guess this just happened, and this will work, and you know. So it's kind of a nice feeling. I'm not putting this on here to give you any how-tos, but more or less just for myself, really, to document what I did. So next time around I'll have an idea. But she's all tucked away back there. A little bit of heat. And just very quickly here from the cutting room floor, I will add thank you to everybody who's been watching these videos. I really just decided to start recording one because I like doing videos, you know. I do that with my band, and I thought it would sort of keep me interested when I got, you know, when I started to feel like I don't want to go out and ride today, you know. I figured that would sort of be an extra little incentive, and it has been. It really has. So, and then putting them on YouTube. I mean, I wasn't actually going to do that originally, but I thought, you know, I could make these look fairly decent and put them up, and maybe somebody else will enjoy them. So if you have been, you know, I appreciate your watching. You know, I'm not trying to make money off of this. I don't give a shit if you just, you know, if you subscribe or whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you get some enjoyment out of it, I'm happy about that, and I'm happy to share. And I met some nice people doing it too. My friend Dalme Sean has his own channel, and he's been a very helpful guy. He's helped me with my mics and given me some advice. So it's been putting it on YouTube has actually been a good experience. So for those of you who have watched a couple, 3, 4 of these videos, thank you. At some point, I'm going to get the hell out of Minnesota and start doing some other rides that I want to do. But I've stuck around here this year just to do, I mean, I'm mostly just testing this year. I'm mostly just trying to, you know, now I'm going to do this and see what happens. And now I'm going to do this and see what this happens, you know, see what this does. So eventually I'm going to, you know, hit Wisconsin and up north in Minnesota, get out of town. So I appreciate everybody who's been watching. So anyway, have a great winter. I'll be putting out some videos. I'll be putting out some highlight videos, and I got a few more rides that I think I can put them out. I have a few that are kind of sitting there like not perfect videos, but I think I can put them out, and should have some pretty interesting content. I got a really good one from New Prague that's at the train museum, and it's a pretty cool video, but it's a little choppy, and I got to figure out how to make a good video out of the footage that I have. So that'll happen over the winter. We'll be doing that. I've been lucky that I've had some time off. One of the guys in my band, our guitar player, got hurt, so we've been kind of sidelined all summer, and that's given me a chance to really figure out how do I ride this 850-pound paperweight, with wheels. I haven't been on anything any bigger than probably like a 650, until now. So everything I've been doing has been kind of new, and I've just been trying to survive, keep the thing upright. So I appreciate everybody watching. Have a great winter. Stay safe.